Welcome back, Houston Hacks fans, and it's playoff time. Everybody's favorite time of the year, or season, that is. We got quite the matchup. Okay, we're facing Magnus, who's I want to say his winning percentage is one of the highest, if not the highest, in the entire league. Very, very good player. One of the brothers from Norway. I know they're not brothers, but very good player, and this is going to be a really tough one. So just taking a look at the matchup. Let me just get rid of my face cam for now. But basically what we're looking at here and what I was most concerned with going in is, number one, this Rotom Heat. Okay, you can see it 13-10 in the season. It doesn't really get recovery, and it doesn't necessarily finish off games, and that's why it has a bunch of deaths. But you can see 13 kills. That is a ton of kills, and he uses it very, very offensively typically. Last time we played him, he did run specs on the Rotom Heat, which basically my entire team does not switch well into specs. The only one that's going to resist both stabs is going to be Drampa from Rotom Heat, but that means I really got to make sure my Drampa is defensive, and just something to keep in mind. Very big threat. Poltergeist, he's used down the stretch very, very well, doing a lot of damage. And then his other really offensive mon, or actually I should say two. Flygon, DD is really, really scary. Life Orb DD does a ton of damage to my team and can be very dangerous. Luckily, okay, I didn't think he would actually bring Flygon initially because I have priority in Piloswine's Ice Shard, I have priority in Glossopod, and then Togetic. The hidden gem here is actually super, super bulky. So unless he packs something like Steel Wing or Iron Tail or Stone Edge, this Togetic is really walling that Flygon very, very well. Plus, I do have priority in the form of Arcanine. Mew could have tons of coverage. Same with Claydol. Everything on my team can hit it, but the key is it's still just a major threat because of its speed tier and how hard it hits. I was not that concerned about Raichu. I thought the only reason he brings Raichu is to really box out my Jolteon, but even then, my Jolteon's faster, and I don't need to run a too much offense to make it 2-hit KO Raichu because its defenses aren't that great. I was a little bit concerned about Eldegoss. That is his only spinner. So that just means that if he doesn't bring it, all my hazards are there for good. I knew Sylveon, just a good little wall for him. You know, his team really works around having Bronzong, Toxapex, Sylveon, and Rotom Heat, and just kind of rotating between all these different mons and keeping everyone alive. Meanwhile, the opponent's switching so much that they just slowly get weakened to the point where Rotom picks him off or he DDs with his Flygon. That's how a lot of his games have gone this year when I went back and watched all of them. And then recently, he has been using his Celigor really, really well. So honestly, his entire team's a threat. I haven't even written on Pangoro. I think Pangoro's maybe the biggest or best breaker against my team, as it just rips through Piloswine. And then with Gunk Shot can hit Togetic, but Togetic otherwise walls it very, very well. But if it has Gunk Shot, it has the potential to do a lot of damage to my team. And so that's something I was really worried about. Luckily, speed tier wise, most of my things are faster than it, but I was thinking maybe a Scarf on this thing. So let's just move into my team specifically and what it was. So we got a new angle here. And I just want to talk about here's my team, right? So I did bring the bulky boy known as Togetic, insanely bulky. If I'm max defense here, like I am, it takes like no damage from Flygon. Even when Flygon's boosted, he can't kill me. I think he can 2-hit KO me if he's at +1, but it's like a 3-hit KO on all super effective moves against Flygon otherwise. So just the ability for this thing to threaten it super effectively, do about 50% to Flygon, heal up a little bit of damage, potentially lock a lot of his mons into moves. Encore is really, really nice for the Toxapex, really, really nice for a couple of his passive mons, Bronzong, And then Baton Pass just allows me, when I'm forcing switches like on his Flygon, I can get and keep my offensive pressure going. Piloswine, love that mon as well. Just being able to sit in front of things. This was definitely for the Poltergeist. This was definitely for the Rotom H. Just being as bulky as I can be on the Spadef side, hoping that maybe he'll make a mistake and run weak armor on his Poltergeist, because then Icicle Spear plus Ice Shard kills no matter what. I brought the Spear just so I 100% was always hitting. Also, I wanted to plow through a few substitutes in case he had some submons. And then it actually works really well against like a Yachi Berry Flygon as well. But I know with the Ice Shard, if he does bring Flygon, I need to keep Piloswine alive the entire game, or else I could potentially lose to the Flygon. So I just got to be careful. I knew I had to be careful with that mon. Toxicroak is going to be our Toxapex answer. As Toxapex, it with the dry skin, it doesn't take any damage from anything water. Poison moves do like literally nothing to it. And then that way I can get free setup. And then Sucker Punch allows me to kill almost all the mons that are faster than it. So Toxicroak actually a really, really nice bring here. Another thing I was thinking about would be sub instead of Swords Dance, and then instead of Sucker Punch, I'd bring Throat Chop. Because then I could stop the offensive pressure from a Sylveon, as well as sit behind a sub against the Toxapex. The only issue there was with Life Orb. I really couldn't 1v1 a Toxapex without boosting, so I kind of needed to keep Swords Dance. My frustration was Sucker Punch is not reliable, especially against his Bronzong. His Bronzong could have been had a few different options against me when I would try to Sucker Punch to kill it. So that's why I was a little worried and kind of wanted to bring Throat Chop, but elected for the Sucker Punch just in case some of his fast mons get out of control and I got to make a 50-50. The Mew set was pretty unique. Obviously, I've been bringing a lot of offensive Mew, but looking at his team, his weakness is going to lie more with setting up hazards. And so, honestly, I was looking at this set, Taunt, Spikes. I had Life Dew instead. Life Dew just gives you 25% health, but that plus lefties, I actually could outlive a couple of things like a Sylveon or something. But depending on how offensive it was, obviously. But I knew Taunt was going to be a good bring. A lot of his mons are really defensive and rely on their status moves. And then I knew Flare Blitz was good enough as my only coverage move. I knew I was walled by Flygon, but I didn't need to do damage to Flygon. If anything, I would just taunt that thing so it wouldn't be able to get up multiple Dragon Dances. Or remember, as long as I get 30% off on Flygon, my Ice Shard picks it off. Assuming it's not Yachi Berry, which it wound up being Yachi Berry, which is a little bit scary. But this Mew first was Life Dew, and then I got rid of Life Dew to get Stealth Rocks because I felt like I needed Rock Slide on my Piloswine. Without Rock Slide, I couldn't really touch Rotom H, and Rotom H just became a mad threat, like crazy, crazy threat. So that's the reason for Mew. I knew I wasn't going to lead Mew either. I knew this was going to be a mid-game play where I get it in on his Sylveon, get it in on its Bronzong, and I'm able to taunt and then start setting up Stealth Rocks and Spikes to pressure the rest of his team, especially that Toxapex and that Sylveon. I know that them coming in and getting hit by Spikes allows a lot of my team to finally get a 2-hit KO off rather than allowing those things to heal back up to full health. So this was kind of my stall breaker Mew set. Well, actually more of a hazard stall stopper. I don't know what you want to call it, but it has taunt and then it's able to set up stuff. Very, very bulky. It allows me to not get 3-hit KO'd by a Sylveon's Hyper Voice. And then Arcanine, pretty fun mon to use. Kind of wound up being the MVP because if he does not bring his Toxapex or his Toxapex is weakened to the point where it's going to struggle, my Arcanine goes in just offensively. Flare Blitz and Extreme Speed's all I needed. This was going to be my lead. And it was, I just figured he has a good chance of bringing a Selgar, who is super, super fast. And a Selgar plus Final Gambit. was super dangerous. I didn't have anything faster than it, so he could pretty much start the game out 5v5. And there really aren't any mons that I wanted to just sacrifice that to. Plus, I wanted to prevent him from getting a ton of spikes up. So the answer became running a super offensive Arcanine set with barely enough speed to outspeed Poltergeist, and then just the rest into attack because I needed to do as much damage as possible. I brought the Roar just in case certain things got set up or I had to get rid of the Rotom H. But just putting a lot of immediate pressure on this team. And then lastly, I can't go anywhere without my crutch known as Claydol. I bring it like every single week. The last move that you can't see is Shadow Ball. I bring it like every single week because I'm so reliant on its spinning. And it exerts a little bit of offensive pressure with Psyshock, Dazzling Gleam, and Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball being for the Bronzong, Psyshock for almost all the neutral hits, and then Dazzling Gleam for his Dragon and his Pangoro. So this is faster than Pangoro, Adamant Pangoro. I am modest here, so I'm doing as much damage as I possibly can. I did have this as not Assault Vest, but I had it as Expert Belt instead. Just to get more damage off, but I really didn't need it. It helped me in the Toxapex 1v1. I think I was able to 1v1 the Toxapex or do like 55 to 70 if you use max defense. I did have Psychic originally, but I knew that Poltergeist I could not hit very well with Psychic because it's more especially defensive. And I knew I couldn't hit his Sylveon like at all with this set if I didn't run Psyshock. So Psyshock just allows me to do 30 to 40% to Sylveon, even if it's max defense. Which is really nice because if the plan goes well and we get a bunch of rocks and spikes up, Sylveon then gets 2-hit KO'd, which is huge. So let's go into the game and let's see what happens. So we'll play this with the music off. But Arcanine, again, big threat. I'm able to just extreme speed this. I realized that he did not run any HP investment, so probably not Final Gambit. He gets a Spike off, which is dangerous as well. I get free damage on the Rotom H. Honestly, coming into this game, guys, Rotom H was probably the number one threat. At least in all the mocks, it just wrecked me. Heavy Duty Boots Rotom just absolutely worked my team. Just nasty plot and then overheat on things. I didn't bring a lot to hit it. And I knew my Piloswine was already going to be really pressured by his team, so I was a little bit worried about this matchup, but because of the way I led, I was able to get some damage. He chose the Rotom H to take some damage, and that was just key for me, being able to basically get rid of the Rotom H for almost free. Here, I didn't run. I thought he was Specs for some reason. He did a ton. He's max special attack modest, but I saw this damage and I had the Kelp up as timid, and so I was really confused why he did so much damage. But it makes sense now. Modest can do 40 damage, but I was under the impression that he was Specs, not that it matters. He brings in the Flygon. I thought about going for the extreme speed, which would have been a really bad play because my Arcanine just pressures his entire team really, really well. And Togetic is just my answer no matter what. Even if he goes to plus one, I still go to Togetic. I take a hit for super effective damage, and then I'm able to dish out about 50% with my Dazzling Gleam. But he goes for Earthquake. I get Togetic in for free. I'm able to Baton Pass here and keep the pressure up on his team. So bringing back in Arcanine on his Taco Bell, his Bronzong, was huge. His Bronzong has been one of his best Pokemon all year. It's my vote for Defensive Player of the Year. The way that Magnus has used his Bronzong has made his team like go into a new level. It like his way that he's tricking things onto other Pokemon or really whatever he does with it, it just exerts a ton of, I would say, passive pressure, setting up rocks, just having that Steel Psychic, being able to wear things down, but basically being able to sit in on almost everything is huge. One thing to note, he did bring Heat Proof the first time we played. I did not think he'd bring Heat Proof again because that means that he's weak to spikes. And if he's weak to spikes, that's a big thing for me, as I can get off spikes with my Mew pretty easily. But now that he's not Heat Proof and he's Levitate, my Arcanine rips through him. I thought he'd be specially defensive. I think he wound up being specially defensive. So that just means my Arcanine is going to OHKO 100% of the time. It's funny, the calc is like 100% to 117% if he's not, if he's Levitate and Max Spadef. So this is a no-brainer for me. I just go for Flare Blitz, and he has to sack his Rotom, which is huge because he has no switch-ins. He's got no switch-ins. He didn't bring Pex, so I'm able to pressure that. Again, he goes for the Flygon, Iron Tail. Now, just look at how bulky this thing is. Okay? Now, we know he's not Life Orb because of that. I may have forgotten that, but he only does 37% with Iron Tail. That's a super effective move. 100 base power, so 200 base power move that it just took 37% from. That's pretty incredible. Here, I thought about healing back up to full, but I felt that the Baton Pass, I felt like he would switch out again. And so using the Baton Pass was just going to allow me to keep that pressure up once again. I didn't really want to let Bronzong get in for free or his Poltergeist. Now here I go to my Arcanine. He could be Specs Shadow Ball. I doubt it because it's kind of a slow Pokemon. I didn't really know the set. I still thought it was Shell Smash. So here I know I'm just going to try to kill this thing with Flare Blitz. I should do like a ton of damage. Actually, I don't have the calc pulled up. But this should OHKO the Poltergeist, but it does not. As you'll find out, it only do 94. I take a ton of damage in the process. He could have hexed me and killed me there, but then the Poltergeist would have traded that. I don't know. If we go into hindsight, that might have been a better move for him. I'm not sure. But just a heads up, just because my Arcanine put on so much pressure, but getting rid of this thing, this actually wound up being the most threatening Pokemon on his team because he's, I believe we'll figure out the entire set here, but he's sub, Strength Sap, Hex, Will-O-Wisp. Just a nasty set. He's got a decent amount of special attack investment, and then he's got a ton of HP, I can tell. And so I'm not able to kill it from full with Flare Blitz, which stinks. It might have been a roll, but oh well. He gets some health back, able to hex me down a little bit. We play this game where I heal and he damages me until he goes for Substitute. And now I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do now? I decide to get rid of his Substitute. He goes for Strength Sap again. I'm able to keep health on Arcanine. I believe I go to Togetic. Yep, Togetic doesn't take much from either of these attacks, especially Strength Sap. He goes for the Substitute, and here's where I get him with the Encore. I did look up in between if Encore worked on sub. I'm pretty sure I knew that already, but I just wanted to make sure, or else that would have been a really bad play. But I'm able to Encore him into sub, and now I got to decide, okay, how do I beat this thing? Because just by looking at my sets, and we don't know he's Will-O-Wisp yet as his final move, but I knew that was an option. Piloswine would have been an okay move because then I can break through his sub and hit him with the ice type move. But if I get Will-O-Wisp on Piloswine, that's really, really bad. I can't get Will-O-Wisp on Croak, and I can't get Will-O-Wisp on Mew. Luckily, Arcanine obviously can't be burned. And so that's what I decided to do is go into Arcanine. I thought about Claydol because Claydol can break the sub and do about 50% with Psyshock. But regardless, I wind up bringing my Arcanine in. He keeps going for subs. I pass on because I use Baton Pass because I thought he might switch and then I'll get a bunch of priority on him. But he just elects to keep using Substitute. Now, here's where I made a mistake. Okay, he's at 69%. That's completely fine. I got to be okay with that. I should roar here, and I think I saved 2 Pokemon. Instead, I looked up that apparently online Encore can stay for 3 to 7 turns. So I was like, well, the odds are it's going to be a little bit more. And if I can get this thing down to 50%, then almost my whole team is able to kill it if it comes back in. So that was the goal, going for one more Flare Blitz, hoping that Encore would stay. And then I would roar this thing out because all I needed to do is get this thing out. So then that way I could bring something else in to kill it, as it's such a big threat. Unfortunately, Encore is over after this turn, I believe. Yep. And now we're at the same problem that we had before. He's going to Strength Sap, go back to full health, and now he can start hexing. And so basically what happens is I wind up sacking my Togetic. I should have kept clicking Encore, but I decided to just heal off. But because him getting up the Will-O-Wisp actually allows him to now kill me. But I decided to go for Dazzling Gleam and to get rid of his substitute. And so that's kind of what I wind up doing here. I take the damage, I break his sub, and he's going to claim my Togetic. I decided to bring in Claydol as that can apply pressure, and I didn't want to lose my Arcanine. It was just too important for me to keep that thing around with Extreme Speed and Flare Blitz. And so I knew Claydol was pretty sackable at this time, and I knew he didn't have anything that could OHKO it, especially with the Assault Vest. So I take the Hex. I thought it was in my favor roll to take a 2-hit KO. I was obviously wrong. I think he did get a high roll on the first Hex. But now that his Sinistea is low on health, I bring in my Mew, which if my Mew's set up and he switches, I might just win the game. So I feel like he is forced to stay in and attack my Mew. And so I get this kill off for free. What happens next is I use Flare Blitz, and now it's disabled. So now he thinks, oh, it's free to bring in my Bronzong. That was his move to hit Bronzong, and now he can go in and use his Bronzong however he wants. Luckily, I brought Taunt. I'm able to taunt this bad boy and then get up my rocks immediately. He brings in a Celigor, which I am unsure exactly what set it is still. I'm still a little bit concerned that he's Specs because he's brought in Spikes with Specs before. I'm a little bit concerned that he has Focus Blast, as that hits a few of my Mons a little bit harder. So I'm able to switch out, go into my Arcanine. Choice Specs Focus Blast could have killed Arcanine, but it would have been really, really close. It would have been like a max roll. So I'm able to bring an Arcanine, clean that kill up. Here, I'm debating whether I should go for the Flare Blitz for a little bit, but I decided there's nothing he can really do to kill me. Even if he was Specs Moonblast or Specs Hyper Voice, it would only do about 50%. So I felt like Morning Sun was probably my best move there, just to heal up a bit. He goes for the now I thought he was just going to Wish Pass into Flygon because I really can't do a ton of damage to it, and it would just heal all the health back. So I wasn't even thinking Calm Mind. I assumed he could have it. I wasn't too worried about it, but I thought he was going to try to Wish Pass into Flygon, and so I thought he was going to switch here, and then I could just roar it and get a better matchup in. So I'm able to roar. I get pretty lucky. A, he went for Calm Mind. He didn't get any damage off. B, it doesn't switch into Flygon. Okay, it's fine. Like it's fine if he goes to Flygon, but it's not good because if he goes to Flygon, then that means I have to either stay in, which I was prepared to do, potentially, is stay in and Extreme Speed it. Because if I could Extreme Speed Flygon, it would be down into the probably 60s, and that way Ice Shard would kill it almost 100% of the time. And Earthquake would more than likely kill me or be very, very, very close. So I did get lucky there, getting in the Bronzong instead. He stays in because he really can't risk anything. Flygon would have took a ton of damage from Flare Blitz. Here I go for the Extreme Speed. Now that Bronzong's gone, I don't really need Arcanine. Arcanine's really good. Don't get me wrong, but I can't let him set up for free. And so I have to hit him with the Extreme Speed. He just goes for Earthquake, as that hits everyone on my team. I'm able to bring out Piloswine. And here I decide to go for not Ice Shard, but I go for the Icicle Spear. It hits 100% of the time. And if I got one more, now that's kind of greedy, but if I would have got 4 there, I would have put it in range of potentially getting killed by my Earthquake. I think it would have been really, really close. I think he still would have survived. If I got 5, I would have been in range of Earthquake. I thought about Earthquaking with the Piloswine, but I felt like that was my best in-between move, is going for the Icicle Spear. If I had Earthquake there, I probably just won on his switch to Sylveon, but I think that was just a little bit safer play. I'm able to bring in the Mew. He's able to heal. But luckily, now I can pressure and make sure that he does not go for the Wish Pass into Flygon. And then if it does does switch, I would have taunted it. So now we're just going to kind of take the Sylveon down to a manageable point. I'd throw the spikes out instead of going for more damage because I know that I can survive one more Hyper Voice, or most likely I can. And by putting out the spike, I just get extra damage if he decides to switch back and forth between Sylveon and Flygon, rather than going for the Flare Blitz. And I know, so here I can either go for the Flare Blitz if Taunt doesn't wear off, but Taunt wears off. So now I go for the Taunt again. Now he can't heal, and he's very, very pressured. I mean, he can only attack, right? I bring in the Toxicroak, which luckily is 100% healthy because he does have the berry, the Kiba berry. I get lucky and go for the poison. I don't think it really matters at this point. I'm able to take it off, and now I'm just going to attack the Flygon no matter what, just to put it even further in range of Ice Shard, make it, not even have to worry about it. I die to Life Orb, bring in the Piloswine, go for the Ice Shard, and the Yachi Berry is revealed. Pretty scary set. Luckily, he wouldn't have been able to OHKO my Piloswine without Life Orb. I think the highest he could possibly do, he would need like a max roll with his Iron Tail, so 75% chance to hit, and I still think it only did like 74 or something like that. So Piloswine was safe unless he crit it, but luckily we didn't have to deal with that. Incredible game. Took forever, which those are always fun, right? You're always like trying to figure out what your next move is. Great game by Magnus. Really, really respect him as a player. I think he's one of our best. And hopefully we can carry it on for him. And we play Sorbs, who is who we usually prep with. And we always have some pretty interesting or pretty competitive games. So hopefully we can get some revenge against his Dragapult. I think we played really well against Sorbs last time. We just basically lost to one set that was created by the Dragapult. The Dragapult was just nasty and too much for us. So hopefully we can slow that thing down and try and find a victory and get ourselves back to the championship. So it's been a really, really fun year, and I will catch you guys later. All right. Peace.